Hello, everybody, again. This is The Freelance Teacher, and I'm Doug Marola, thefreelanceteacher.com, tfttravelgroup.com. Just talking to you a little bit about what's going on in my sphere lately. I am listening to a fantastic podcast as we speak. Haven't even taken the earbud out of my ear. It's so good. With Joe Rogan and Dan Carlin. And I'm listening to it because I volunteered to teach a single section of freshman global history. So second period, I have a group of ninth graders in global history, and I'm still feeling my way. It's very difficult in the school setup to do history the way I would like to do it. So I'm doing history the way I don't like to do it, with worksheets, and I mix in some videos as much as I can. And I'm going up against a lot of different things. And I'll videocast about that later because, you know, my legions of fans keep barking up my tree about what's going on in the global class. So don't worry, I'll let you know. I'm on it. I'll let you know ASAP how that voluntary history class, global history class is going. But I have to mention something that came up in the Carlin Rogan podcast, because they bring up so many good points, and it's a ridiculously entertaining discussion. That should let you know that if you have interesting conversations with somebody, you should record them. You should put them on Skype. You should do a podcast yourself. There's no gatekeeper getting in the way anymore. The gatekeepers are gone. You can put up a podcast. You can use SoundCloud, which is very easy to use. I'm trying to start, and will start, Podcast Mavericks Within the Machine with Ms. Andreen Bonner. Look for that. I'll let you know. Don't worry. I'll keep you posted here on the Freelance Teacher videocast. But Carlin and Rogan brought up a great point when they're talking about people arguing, and they bring up regulatory capture. Now, they're not using the term regulatory capture. They don't say regulatory capture at all, but what they're talking about is how people cannot argue anymore because you can't get past the team play, the tribalism of the arguments or debates that go on today. And they're right. Carlin and Rogan are correct. And they bring up the case where Rogan, who has a little bit of a leftist in him, but at least he's honest, which eliminates 65% of the people who argue about politics. He talks about how the left is digging their heels in, and they've got the bit between their teeth and they can't adjust. And then he brings up the same thing on the other side. And he brings up the EPA and EPA regulations, and the EPA being controlled by a corporation or a former corporate head of some business industry corporation that has been on record as being against the EPA. And two things. One of them is Rogan must not be aware that that's how it's done all the time. It's called regulatory capture. The second thing is the libertarian position on this, which is as a libertarian since probably 2009 or so. The regulatory capture thing in the libertarian world, their view on it is correct, is that if you have the agent of government controlling an industry, to regulate the industry, the heads of the industry, the big money people in that industry, will capture the regulatory agency, and it will make the rules. And it will make rules that will benefit it, the large corporation, and flush out or hamper or hinder the small players in the industry. So Rogan brings up a legitimate point in the sense that the EPA will probably get disemboweled. Maybe, I'm guessing. I don't know. It'll get hurt by the Trump administration. It's possible. And that the phenomenon of regulatory capture is the way it is. The easiest one that I bring up, right? Because people talk about this and they're like, oh, Republicans, and now they're talking about Trump, and it could have been Bush before him or anybody. This is terrible. The big corporations are going to run the regulatory agencies, and this is horrible. Well, you know me, I got to be myself. I bring up somebody like Michael Taylor, who was a big shot with Monsanto, probably the most evil, corrupt corporation on the planet. It's difficult to come up with a corporation that has a worse track record than Monsanto. Look up farmers committing suicide in India. Monsanto, you can thank them for creating I believe it was Agent Orange they created during the Vietnam War. Now they're big in the food industry. Yeah, see, Agent Orange, food. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Well, guess what? Michael Taylor, I think he was a top attorney for Monsanto. You can look it up. And I'm not going to do your work for you. You check it out. Right? And so this guy was put in as one of the FDA big shots by W. Bush, if I remember correctly. The Obama administration did not take him out. Let me rephrase. Let me repeat that for you. Evil Bush, who you see the stuff now with Trump. He's a Nazi. He's literally Hitler. All this kind of stuff. This is what they said about W. Bush. So yawn. This is not exciting. Criticism of Donald Trump. Been there, done that. So Taylor comes in. He's a Monsanto head honcho big shot, right? These are like the poisoners of the world, right? I hope Monsanto doesn't hear this and they sick their lawyers on me. Maybe it'll be Taylor himself. And so if this guy's head of FDA, everyone's screaming to the hills, running, screaming, Bush, right? Bush Hitler, right? With the H for Bush at the end and then H for Hitler. You get it? Well, Barack Obama comes in and silence. Nothing. Taylor didn't go anywhere. He was still there. Right? Need another example real quick? Jeffrey Immelt, General Electric. Jeffrey Immelt became Barack Obama's jobs czar. Right? Jobs czar. Now, I don't know what that guy did, but he was the head of GE. We're talking major black finance, hardcore military-industrial complex. I mean, come on. It's General Electric. They're one of the main pot stirrers for the military-industrial complex. Those witches that stand around stirring the pot. How can we defeat the earth and enslave humanity? So Rogan brings up this with the EPA, and he was right. I'm not putting Joe Rogan down. He brings up a legitimate thing, right? But it's just surprising to me that this is not seen as something. It's surprising to me that this is seen as something new. That Donald Trump and these corporations are going to run the regulatory agencies. Yeah, so this should be surprising to nobody. And you need to call out people who think that this is something unique to Trump. That's your job. I do it. I do it with high schoolers all the time. When they talk about the evil rich, and I bring up someone like Oprah, who seems to be a wonderful person and is an amazing story. Oh, those rich people are terrible, all this kind of stuff. Oh, you mean Oprah? Oh, and then, of course, you get the equivocation, and you get the double standards, and you get the hemming and the hawing and all this kind of thing. That's your job to do that. Right? The world, I'm going to speak for the planet. We cannot advance unless people are willing to have rational conversations and get rid of the tribalistic BS. And that means, and you're watching people who are pretty good at this kind of thing and setting up good conversations. Rogan is a solid place to go. A guy named Dave Rubin has the Rubin Report, and he brings out good talk. Why? Because it's a civil tone where people get their beliefs challenged in a way that isn't just, I'm going to dig in my heels and I'm going to ignore reality and I'm not going to bend no matter what. And then it's just Yankees versus Red Sox. Right? I'm going to be with the Yankees and every other team, and everyone on those teams, they're terrible. Remember, A-Rod was going to go to the Red Sox. The baseball union nullified the contract, and A-Rod was the devil incarnate. Oh, not so fast. Then he became a Yankee. Now we love A-Rod, and it's great. So you have these kinds of arguments that really are Coke versus Pepsi, Yankees versus Red Sox. You see what I'm saying? It's Detroit Lions versus Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving Day. These are not real arguments. And Rogan and Carlin are having a really, really good talk on that. And the fact that they brought up something like regulatory capture is fascinating, because that has been a libertarian staple for ages. That if you have the huge, gigantic government that the United States has, that is just, it has its boot on the throat of the planet. And you bring up something, you have that body there to dictate policy. You have the United States federal government that is supposed to be in control of everything. And people want this. They seem to want the government. Oh, there's a problem. Let's have the government take care of it. 90% of your friends, that's how they think. So the libertarians have been saying, look, if you're going to have a massively powerful federal government, the only body in the world that can legalize violence, right? If you don't follow what we say is right, you go to prison. You can't do that. I can't do that. I have students who don't do homework. I'm going to jail. Didn't do your homework? Not only are you going to fail the test, but you're going to the pen, right? Cell block D for you. It doesn't work. I can't do that, but the government can. So when you have that entity out there, and the libertarians are perfect on this, you will get the large players putting in regulations. They will, quote unquote, regulate the industry. And what they will do is they will regulate the competition out of it. And in case you think I'm fooling you on this, look at anything by Joel Salatin. His book, Folks, This Ain't Normal, is a good look at this in the food industry. And you'll see it as well if you try to open up a school. We tried and have opened up a daycare, try to open up a hair salon. I double dog dare you try to open up a bank. Or like at a brokerage firm, like you're good with stocks and you understand money. Yeah, open up your own firm. I don't see how you can. The big shots have locked you out. They have captured the banking industry. And you can't do it. So all of these things came to mind while listening to the Rogan Carlin podcast. I'm only about an hour in. It's very good. Look up Regulatory Capture, Joel Salatin, and think for yourself. Be your own boss. Write your own script. Talk to you later, people.